Everyone, hope everything is going well. Today we have a new guest. He is FD from Rolling with FD. FD, thanks for coming on.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, yep. I was on twice last year on
Yes.
your show and enjoyed the experience. And this time around, I was like, hey, let's have you on.
Yeah.
Yep. You got your Golden State gear?
I got my Golden State gear on up by 14 at halftime. They're only playing the Spurs, but at least it's a win. Or they're
Okay.
winning. Let me not call it right now. They're winning.
Okay, okay. So you're from what? South side of Chicago. That's where you grew up, right? That's what you
Born,
told me.
born and raised. Born West Side, grew up South Side.
Okay, so you're not a Bulls fan then?
Yeah, I root for every Chicago team, but to me, the greatness that the Golden State Warriors, uh, how they play, is just it's something very, very rare. And I think since growing up and watching Michael Jordan play, I marvel at teams who express greatness on a night in, night out basis, even when they lose. How they lose says a lot about them. So that's why I root for Golden State and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr, who came from the Bulls. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, you talk about the '90s Bulls versus this team here, and I look at the '90s in terms of basketball. There was a lot of defense out there.
Yes,
And this time around, I think we talked about it in one of the live streams you had with me that today there's no defense.
not really.
So yeah, so I'm just thinking, could a Steph Curry or a Klay Thompson could they have been successful in the '90s? I don't think they would have been as successful. Maybe Steph Curry could have been in the likes of Reggie Miller. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they would have been successful because of how they play the game. You have to, anytime you have to have a defender extend their defense to guard you, it's not like you're just down in the post hitting the ball.
Yeah.
Even a player like Shaq, the NBA changed how they play defense. They went to a zone defense because no one could guard Shaq one on one. So I think they would have been successful. There are other players that are in the NBA today that I don't think would have been as successful, but I think people like Clay, Steph, um, they're just on another level that I think they would have still been. Wow, you see how he did that? When you're shooting from half court, you shooting from 30 feet out, you're gonna get that done no matter what area you're in. Now the question is, when you talk about Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, and several other players, when you're penetrating into the paint, we know what the 80s and 90s was like and how physical the game was. Would those players have been as successful?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
And I mean, LeBron James would have been successful in any era.
Oh, I agree
I
with that.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. But I also LeBron does not like to be touched a lot in a game. I would
No,
love to see Dennis Rodman playing defense on LeBron James. And how would that
no,
go? If he could get in Karl Malone's mind, he's probably gonna get in LeBron's mind. And then how would that play out?
that's true. That's true. All right, let's take a look some comments or look at some comments. Steve Splenda, what's good, fellas? Who are the best in the hobby?
Good
What's
to see.
going on? Katie, Golden State was magical, unfair, but awesome. Yep,
Well,
yep.
very much so.
And you are also saying Clay pre-injury was a pretty good defender.
He was a shutdown defender. You put him on your best person, they're gonna score less.
There you go. There you go. All right. Now I wanted to touch base on how you got into this hobby.
Mhm.
So you told me, like you said, you grew up south side of Chicago. So how did you get involved in this hobby? Because
Well,
I'm
it
curious.
was all AIH. It was all my father. So my father was a huge catalyst. When I was young, I started collecting 8 or 9 years old baseball cards, tops cards. And he was the person that was kind of the facilitator of that. He would tell me a lot of sports knowledge about stuff before I was born. He wanted to collect when he was in Mississippi as a young kid, could not from a financial point of view. There was a whole bunch of other stuff. My father grew up on a farm with other, kids and parents and grandparents and working before school, at school, working after school. So watching sports, he never watched sports. He listened to sports on the radio. So it's something that he always wanted to do. His favorite player was Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, players like that. And so when I expressed to him that this is something that I'm kind of, so I started. Let me just back up. I started collecting stamps and coins. Ooh,
Okay.
I was probably 7 years old. I started doing a
Okay.
lot of research on coins and stamps and understanding what I could buy with my allowance money, stuff like that. And then that kind of grew into baseball cards. And then when I was 13, that matured into collecting autographs, going to shows in Chicago, meeting athletes, people way like Jim Brown, people, Ernie Banks, Yogi Berra, way before I was born. And my father was there to tell me about those people and got me interested in it. And then was a person that was there for me whenever I wanted to talk strategy, what autographs I wanted, what cards I wanted, what sets I was trying to put together. Him and I would talk about that. I always say my father's the originator of Rolling with FD. Anything that I'm doing as far as hobby related, sports talk, him and I would sit and watch a game and just break down sports. I think differently than most people that I've watched sports with. He was a catalyst of it all. He played sports growing up. I came to find out my freshman year in high school. Ironically, I got the same number. My number was 72. I got the same number that he had as a running back in high school. We bonded on sports, so he kicked it all off.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. And I think you said in one of the videos you did, you played football in college. Is that true?
Yeah, played football in college. Right
Okay.
guard, offensive guard.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So yeah, whenever I watch your videos, I could tell you know quite a bit about football. So
Well, I'm a connoisseur of all sports, so
yeah.
I watch the Olympics. I watch basketball, baseball, football, almost any sport. I'm probably gonna have some commentary on.
Okay. Okay. So I know a lot of your hobby content revolves around going to shows, hanging out with your children,
Mhm.
and I know that you frequent that one show in LA all the time. I can't think of it off the top of my mind.
Premiere
Uh,
show. What show?
what's that big hobby shop in LA
Oh, Burbank.
again? Yeah, yeah,
Burbank.
Burbank. Yeah, you always go there. So, what's the vibe right now? I mean, we know it was crazy a couple of years ago, and now it's just looking at how everything is without looking at the shows, everything has just gone down in value. Now, how are the shows going on your end?
I think people are still trying to understand what's going on in the market. There's still foot traffic at shows. There, I think we're probably getting back down to the people that are really hobbyists, those who are really interested in collecting cars or even buying, selling, but they have a more of a could possibly have more of a story about why they're doing what they're doing. I see similar faces when I go out. There are some people that I do not see. I don't see anymore for whatever reason. So I think all over the country right now we're having this podcast, and Dallas just started. It's going to be interesting to me. One of the first big shows of the year. There was a show in Hawaii, what, last week or the week before,
Yeah, yeah.
and in Dallas is happening. I think these shows are going to show us a lot about coming out of the gate in 2023. What are the market conditions? What are people buying? What are the prices looking like? There are some people that still holding on to some old prices. You can look at a car and man, that was the price maybe 18 months ago or 12 months ago. It's not really the price now. So, what do we have now? I think I was talking to someone the other day. We have Dallas going on right now. You're going to have Culture Collision coming up 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks from now is Culture Collision in Atlanta. Then you're going to have the Burbank show 2 weeks after that. And then we're going to get down to Del Mar in March and most likely coming back with another Dallas show in April or March, probably end of March, middle of March. So this is going to tell us a lot. The first quarter of this year, there are many large shows that's going to tell us all a lot about what's going on. What is foot traffic looking like? Are vendors at shows doing deals with vendors? Or are they actually doing deals with a customer across the table?
Yeah. Speaking of shows, I've seen on Twitter and some YouTubers talking about this and that if you don't have a table, then you can't do any trades. Have you heard of anything like that?
Not out
Or
here. I mean,
not, not,
that's
not
not
like that
here.
there?
I've never seen that at a West Coast show. I've seen signs on Instagram where someone was at a show someplace else and something like that was stated on the sign. But I've also talked to people around the country where there are people that host shows that don't believe in trade nights, or they don't believe in AIH. You may have a card at a show, and I have a card like we're talking about, and we exchange that card, or we barter at the show. People don't believe in that. I think, me personally, right? I grew up in an era where that didn't exist. So if you hold fast to that old school thinking, then yeah, you probably don't want that around. You have a mentality where you may think that this is taken away from the business that I'm trying to do. But I would think that someone that's trying to be progressive in the hobby and take the hobby to the next level will incorporate media, things that we do here, as well as different forms of buying and trading. If you go to a card show, it's totally different than going to a trade night. You know, you have people who are growing in the hobby, learning how to sell cards, how to present themselves, how to market their table. You're learning all that. And maybe one day you could bring that to a show. There are a lot of people that I talk to that's like, hey, this is my first time setting up, but I've done trade nights for a while now and I've learned some things. So I would say my recommendation to people is being open to change. I've never understood why human beings are adverse to change when every day there are changes in our day. But
Interesting.
we don't embrace that though. And most people, I give this stat all the time. Most people die 15 miles away from where they were born, and they had nothing to do with where they were born.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that phrase.
Think about that. Think about that. Just think about that.
So,
Conformist. That's just this is what I do. I'm not built
okay.
like.
So let me ask you this. You said that taking the hobby to the next level, more specifically, what do you want to see and how do you think it can be done?
I think anything that we're involved in, there's going to always be evolution to it. It's always going to be change. I mean, the cars that we have in front of us are not made at all like they were 25 years ago. And we don't know yet what Fanatics is going to do. There could be a day where we don't have any cars on the back that says this patch is not from any particular player or any particular jersey. Like it's actually from something. There's a whole bunch of things that could happen in the hobby as we go forward. I would recommend that people are open to the changes that could occur. I know I am. I'm not sitting here today on January 13th thinking that January 13th, 5 years from now, I'm going to see the same thing. I'm going to experience the same thing. Shows are going to be the same way. Interactions on eBay are going to be the same way. We don't know what's coming.
Yeah, speaking of eBay, now some people could actually sell live on eBay. So I think that's the change. I mean,
Well, eBay had to come with something to answer whatnot, all these other ways. This is what I'm talking about, the evolution. They had to come with something that combats that in the marketplace. You can't just say, AIH, you have a card up, it is being sold in 5 more days. When over here, transactions are happening like right now, instantaneously. So I always thought that they would come with something, but because of their brand, it had to be well sorted out. There had to be an asset test done on it to make sure that what they're bringing to the table does not deteriorate from their brand.
yeah, like for me personally, I like the old school way that, hey, I could take a look at the card. I don't need to make a quick impulsive decision unless if it's a really cheap card. I understand that some people like the QVC model of, hey, look, someone's advertising. I think Lori from what's that show, Shark Tank?
Mhm.
I mean, like she's successful with it, but it's just not my taste. But I understand some people will like it. So I guess it's a good thing for eBay just to branch out in that direction
Yeah.
because some people like that model
Mhm.
and it'll probably
It's
be
not really for me either. I don't find myself on different platforms a lot buying something instantaneously, but I know people who love it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Trading Card Immortal says the hobby needs to be accessible for everyone.
Ooh, that's a big
I
statement.
Yeah, it is a big
Big
statement. And I think it is accessible if people choose to do so. I mean, YouTube, most people have the internet, and we could type in all the content out there. If you look at maybe 5 years ago, less people were on YouTube producing content. And then I think Lids, I don't know if you've been to a Lids lately.
Oh yeah, this hat came from a list. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now they sell all these brands of sports cards.
Mhm.
And I don't think it
Well,
was there before.
that's the Fanatics input right there.
Yeah, that's the Fanatics input. So getting down to a shop where a lot of people go. You could get Panini, you could get Topps brands, Upper Deck. I saw. So you know, it is improving in that regard. I know back in the day they used to sell at gas stations. I don't know if Fanatics is going to do
Gas
that.
stations, 7-Elevens. That's where I used to buy some football cards. Jerry Rice rookie year, 7-Eleven.
Do you think that Fanatics should do that again?
In some regard, I think they should. I think that I always think about the way I started collecting and where I purchased cards from.
Yeah,
Retail, really, it's retail. And for the most part, right now in the hobby, retail is shunned. And if you're an inner city kid, I don't care what race, creed, color you are, you're probably buying cards at a retail store. And if you look at some large cities here, I mean, we can dig into some numbers on what the average family income is. And are these kids going to a hobby shop? No, and never will until they probably make money on their own. So, how do you introduce? That's why when this statement is made, the hobby needs to be accessible for everyone. How do you really make the hobby accessible for everyone without some 12-year-old showing their cards at a show? Because I've seen this. A young person will come in and show their cards at a show, and people are kind of snickering at what's in their collection.
yeah. So this vintage, what's going on, man? He says he grew up in Harlem. He had to buy cards from the newsstand. So that's quite
That's what I'm talking
interesting.
about. That's what I'm talking about. And then
Yeah,
and he says again, no Kmart or Walmart was
yeah.
available.
No Kmart or Walmart was available. Yeah,
I'm talking about.
and
Now,
then
there are many people out here though. If you said you lived in a place with no Kmart or Walmart, they wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Steve says that Appalachia, he was born there or raised there, and he said we bought at Kmart. So okay, that's
Retail.
quite interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with the internet compared to what the 80s, now even if you're in a small town in Appalachia or the inner city, there's still a lot of opportunities, I would say, just to look online, say, hey, look, mom, dad, could you buy this for me? I mean, it doesn't cost that much. I mean, still the in-person presence of going to a store like, hey, I want that. I think that is a little more better. But I do think that social media, even though I may blast social media, it does help getting more people involved in the hobby. That's just my personal opinion. And the barrier to go to youtube.com, anyone could go there. So I
So,
think it's improved
let
in
me ask
that
you a question
aspect.
though. Do
Yeah.
you think that involvement of all different kind of diverse people
Yeah.
really important to a lot of people in the hobby?
I think that most people, when they go into the hobby, they don't think about, you know, what person's race is, or they don't think about that. I think a lot of people, they look at the hobby as an escape from reality. That's what I've observed. You may look at it differently, because when I got into this hobby a couple of years ago, I mean, or what got me into YouTube, I'll tell you this. I wasn't thinking anything about race. I was thinking about, I needed to clear my mind, and I and with all the events going on in our society, I'm not going to get into politics in this live stream, but I needed an escape. And this was my ultimate escape. And because of me coming on YouTube, I've been able to interact with you.
Mhm.
You see Steve in the comment section. We
Yep.
DM each other all the time. So for me, I mean, you may have a different answer. For me specifically, it was just an escape, and it had nothing to do like from a racial aspect.
Well,
So what's your take?
I'm talking like not race really, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about financial dollars.
Hmm.
and you can put race to the side. Race may
Yeah.
end up coming back into that. You can put race to the side.
Yeah.
Like if you're a kid and your family makes so much, is the hobby trying to bring that kid in?
You could say that they're trying to bring in their parents and then they could bring in their kids that way.
I just don't see a lot of that. I don't know
You
where that's
know?
mm,
I mean, I know like Jeff Wilson, I'm not picking on him in this live stream here, but what I'm saying is that, he's affluent, he's rich, and, he's gotten his kid into the hobby.
mhm.
And I think for kids out there, I think the effort is made from the industry to be like, hey, look, we could get some younger kids into this hobby this type of way through his YouTube channel. And then I think there's some other Instagram accounts that I've gone after, but they're pretty much trying to promote kids in the hobby. And they're trying to show, hey, look, this kid is trading with this guy, or he has a picture of this card, or whatever like that. I think that's what they're trying to do if there's nothing nefarious going on.
So
But
this is the question I ask, right?
yeah,
I'm in my 40s.
yeah,
My father kicked me off. I've met a few people in the hobby who have embraced me. AIH, when I first got into the hobby, I would walk into card stores where people would talk to me like I knew nothing. And I'm always the kind of person that, even when I was young, I'm gonna really get to the gnat's ass. So when I'm looking at, thinking
yeah,
about buying and what it could be worth, back when I was 10 years old. Uh,
yeah,
so I didn't bump into a lot of. We talk about people that want to do trades at shows now. I
yeah,
didn't bump into a lot of people who were advocates of teaching me more about the hobby. And I've been
yeah.
in the hobby for years. And then so I asked myself, how does another FD get produced? Where does it come from?
I think it's social media.
We can only hope. But I'm just going by personal experiences. Very few people since I've been in the hobby have pulled me aside and tried to mentor me in the hobby. I'm talking about from 10 to 25. I've had very little experience of that. And I've been around a lot of places, looking at a lot of stuff, going to many nationals. And so when I look at our young people, how do you get young people involved and mentor them? Like I take my son now. He's going to be with me more and more and more now. It just got a little bit older. And when I go to shows, my main objective is to talk to young people. I really don't even pass young people without talking to them about something. What are you interested in? Who's your favorite player? Whichever it may be. Because I remember being a young person someplace where if you don't know, you just don't know. And no one's really putting their arm around you and say, you know what, let me talk to you. Let me mentor you. So I admire when I see like Jeff and I see other people on social media doing that. But then I always ask myself, what are we doing as a whole to get our people? I see Pull My Card. Pull My Card does great work with his son, having his son all over the place, representing his age group as well as opening packs and being a very positive young man in the community. His father's like my father, but where are the other kids at?
It's quite interesting what you have to say about this. I really didn't. I had some cards lying around when I was a kid, but I really, really didn't get into sports cards intensely. And it was until what, 2018.
Mhm.
And I think it was the fall or winter of 2018. I actually had to teach myself. I went into an antique store because my wife saw that, hey, there's Funko Pops. I told her, hey, let's go there because you're into that. And then I just started to look at all these cards and I picked up everything because I'm a huge baseball fan. I saw Chipper Jones rookie card and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. So, and I was what, in my late 20s at that time, or early 30s. I mean,
Mhm.
so I I had a different experience where I just learned it on my own. And then through trial and error, then I just got involved in YouTube and then just producing content here and there. So yeah, I mean, no one was there, when I was young. But at the same time, I think a lot of it has to come with it's your own personal interest. And I think as content creators, like year one, I'm one. I mean, this is a good opportunity just to bring more people in. Yes, I understand people may call me more cynical, but I think at the end of the day, we're getting the ideas out there. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. From a financial end, there are entry levels, and for kids, there are lower end products where they can have fun and experience the hobby. Yep. Yep. If I had a kid, I would totally show them the hobby, but no way I'd put them on the internet. Yeah. I think I could understand that point of view.
Like Junior for us, Junior gets on the internet, he's highly supervised. There has to be
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
why
Yeah.
he's
Good.
on, what is he looking for, and then we're interacting with him while he's researching dinosaurs or extinct animals or whatever he's doing.
Yep. Yep. And Steve says it makes sense for the parents to moderate and supervise, and then the community.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Alrighty. So I told you I wanted to get into this, and you said that every topic is fair game.
Everyone.
Yep. And I think one of the podcasts you just threw out a topic, and you let me speak my mind. So I'm gonna probably do that here.
Okay.
So Mark's cards.
Yep, Mark's cards. You want me to just go?
Yeah. Just go. Like,
Okay, Mark's Cards was a place that, like, when we first started. So the first day that we started filming, we ironically went to 3 places. I think we left the house. We knew about 2 places that were having shows, and then we learned about Mark's Cards. So we went to Burbank. We went to Melrose Sports Cards, which is no longer open. And then that night, almost at the end, it was like really dark when we got there. We went to Mark's Cards. And I found out about Mark's Cards show on Instagram from several other people who were posting about going there. And so when we got there, we did an interview with Mike at Mark's Cards in his showcase area. We went around and talked to several different people at the show. And then we ended the show by showing they had like a basketball tournament out back. But no one there at that show knew us. This is our first day out. No one there knew us at all. Like, we're standing by Mojo. We're standing by different people. None of them knew who we were. One person even asked my son G to film a little bit. I think Mojo gave him his camera and said, film a little bit of the basketball game. They didn't know who we were. So after that, when Marks would have shows, we would go by to record content. I knew of Mike as the owner, but I didn't know Mike. I didn't know him any different than, probably at this point, I know some other people here in LA that will host the show more than I knew Mike at the time. I just knew him as Mike. One story, AIH, I want to share with you that I've never shared before.
interesting. Okay.
I've
Go ahead.
never shared with anybody. I've never talked about this. Even with what went on with Marks and the whole card thing. So probably about 2.5 months before this whole card thing blew up. Where are my cards? I sent cards to PSA. When everybody was talking about that, who had sent cards in, it's a Saturday. I wanted to get Junior some Pokemon cards. We had talked as a family. Yeah, it's story time, Steve. You're going to dig this one. We had talked as a family of getting Junior some Pokemon cards and open them on a future episode. Junior's first time opening Pokemon. G loves Pokemon. So G had been telling him a lot about Pokemon and kind of educating him on different characters and what energies were, just a whole bunch of stuff. So we're out grabbing something to eat. My mom is with me. And so I look, and Mark's Cards closed at 6 o'clock. It was about 5:30, 5:25. So I sent a DM on Instagram, and I asked to whoever receives the DM, I don't know who they are. Hey, you close at 6. If we get there around 6, are you good with that? Someone replies back, yeah, we're good with that. Just come on through. So we rush home. I pick up Junior, Junior and I, only 3 of us, roll out to Mark's Cards. We get there at probably about 6:02, 6:05. This is when it to me gets interesting. I walk into Mark's Cards. Mike's brother is there. Mike's brother introduced himself to me as a part owner. he was there at the store. He was also there with another young man who was a little bit taller than him. I don't know that individual's name. I don't even remember Mike's brother's name. We walk in and I explained that we're there to get Pokemon cards and get some hoops at the time, NBA hoops. It was an entry level. I wanted to have fun with Junior and G. From the time we enter, Mike's brother is all about us leaving because it's almost 6 o'clock. It was the Saturday before Mother's Day. He's talking about he has to go to an event. So I explained to him, well, I sent a DM. Someone told me to come by and it was okay. And so he didn't believe me, as if I'm making up that story. That would be a random story to make up. And so then I produced the DM for him. I showed him my phone and the DM that I sent. Then at that point, he's still about us leaving. Hey, so what do you want? So I tell him I want hoops. He gives me hoops. I don't even really get to the Pokemon cards because he's about us leaving. Junior expresses that I thought we were here to get Pokemon cards. I was like, the way this guy's talking, he's not going to let us stay here long enough to get Pokemon cards. And AIH, I don't get worked up about a lot, bro. But I'm going to tell you, man, when I expressed to him that my son is here for his first time to get Pokemon cards, he did not care about that. Rolled right through that. Did not care. I talked to him from the time we went in the store to the time we walked outside. Kept expressing that. You know, this guy's here for Pokemon. This guy's here. We're going to open up some hoops cards. Really didn't care about that. Told me in the shop that a lot of people come here to talk cards and sports, and I'm not really here for that. I get tired of these conversations. AIH.
Wait, that's what he said?
That's what he said, bro.
To you?
That's what
his
he
brother.
said.
Okay.
And so I say, well, you know, you do please remember that you're running a card store. So most people that come through that door are going to talk to you about cards or they're going to talk to you about sports. And you'll have some people that will just be here all day. That's just what the hobby is. That's what we've all grown up to. He wanted to hear none of that. Even outside, I said, when my Junior was sitting on the curb, that, you know, you really turned his first experience into Pokemon into nothing. He didn't want to hear that. So at this point, I told him, I see that talking to you is doing nothing here. And G, myself, I carried Junior to the car because Junior's disappointed. G and I and Junior get in the car, we go home. So I don't express this on Instagram. I don't say anything about this in any kind of content. At this point, AIH, I'm done with Mark's cards. So I don't know, what, 2 months later, so we hear about the card controversy. No shock to me. And I talked to a few other people that worked there, and Mike never contacted me about this. So I pretty much thought to myself, I'm done with Mark's cards. So you know, later on there was some content put out, people trying to connect us with Mark's cards. Just a place that I went to buy cards that day, and we filmed some content before that. Had no connection with people. There's no friendships there. And after the story that I just told you, I'm telling you the way I operate. When I walked out of Mark's cards that day, I had no intentions of ever going back to Mark's cards. Whatever happened with Mark's cards would be what happened to Mark's cards. We even talked as a family, if there was going to be another show, we wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I remember all of this over a year ago, and I remember you said that, hey, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to go back to my older videos, and anything with Mark's cards, I'm gonna delete. This is not what me and my family are all about.
Yeah.
And when I saw that response, I'm like, okay. And then you asked me to come on your program, so I was like, okay, he admitted, okay, he talked about, this is not what I'm all about. I delete the videos. Okay, fine. I could, have a conversation with you. Obviously, we don't agree on every issue, but that response was okay. I could definitely talk to you.
We talked as a family, and we decided that's what we're going to do. And the day that we put up our response to that, I still didn't even mention the story I just told you, which had happened before that. We took stuff down that day. And the tripped out thing about it was the Mark's car video was like our first real video walking somewhere and talking to people. We still took that down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
AIH. I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. I was that still doesn't sit well with me. The day that we were there, but I'm the kind of person where if I have a bad interaction with someone, I'll tell people that I know or probably family. But I'm just not. A lot of times, it's like, if you're running your business like that, you're gonna take care of yourself. So
Yeah, I mean, I personally would not do that if I owned a hobby shop. I mean, any business you run, you have to obviously look at the long run.
yeah,
And then obviously you could tell people, hey, this was my experience. You may not, say it publicly, but behind closed doors, is that something you want as a business? And it's word of mouth.
yeah, man. And it goes back to the conversation we just had, as far as who's putting their arm around a young person who is here to buy their first Pokemon cards. Is their experience going to be good? Their experience going to be horrible?
Yeah, that's
Junior still brings this up. Remember that time we went to that store? Still brings this up. He's not gonna forget that. But I have him out because I told him that day that's not the hobby. That's not the whole hobby, man. I'm gonna get you out, introduce you to some people, have you walk around. He sees different stuff now, but he still remembers that.
Yep. So speaking of Mark's cards, so obviously we look at the hobby a little more differently. And so my, I don't deal with, a lot of, I don't do content the way you do.
Mhm,
I just don't trust a lot of people in the hobby.
mhm,
And I've seen a lot of stories, heard a lot of stories. I've talked about a lot of stories. So my question for you is like, how do you navigate around this? You told me that, or you've said that, hey, you grew up in the south side of Chicago. I'm sure you've seen a lot more than what I have. I grew up in the suburbs and I've dealt with shady people in the suburbs. Obviously, I mean, these guys were like high IQ, really shady people. These are the same type of people I've seen in society. So this is what has shaped my vision out there. Some people may call it cynical. I call it me being a realist.
mhm,
So, what do you do in this hobby that's not regulated, where there's obviously what I call hanky panky behavior?
mhm.
How, like, do you distinguish a person? Okay, they may look nice on camera, they may seem like a nice guy, but how do you distinguish, hey, this guy, I could interact with this guy, I can't? Because for me, I don't trust a lot of people. I'm just being honest with you.
I don't trust a lot of people either. Not at all. I think anybody that knows me knows that. But what I do is I meet each individual person and have conversations with them. And then I take from there. I'm a good reader of people, behavior. Um, I'm a good reader of that. Um, how a person kind of operates. Are they telling me the truth? I can tell you many shows. When I walk up to a table as a person I do not know, you'll even see it in content. I'll start asking some questions to understand where you're at. Like if I see a card that's for $100, I do a lot of research at AIH. So if I see a card on your table for $100 and it's really a $25 card, you'll see me start asking questions about your strategy. How did you get to that $100? Where you at on this? Stuff like that. To understand, are you someone I'm gonna buy from in the future? Or are you a table I'm probably gonna walk by? Now, and later I've seen some people change comps over time. I guess they get out and they start understanding they're not going to sell stuff, and then it falls more in line to reality. But when I meet people in the hobby, I'm really trying to understand who they are as a person. It's really no different than if I met someone socially out. I'm trying to understand who you are as an individual, man, woman, doesn't matter to me. Who are you as an individual? And I apply those same principles to the hobby. This is why it's always shocking to me when there's robberies at a store. Right? There's robberies in all of retail. We get shocked in the hobby, like, I can't believe that happens. Look, it happens every day. Why would you think that there's a $15,000 car behind a glass door and nobody's going to think about just walking through that glass door? And a lot of times it's like a level of being naive which I never understand. I mean, anywhere you go in life, I don't go to the airport and take my luggage down and walk away, just assuming my luggage is going to be there. I don't go to a show and sit any cards that I have someplace and walk away. But I've been at shows where I've seen kind of reckless behavior, where people will put something down, walk away. People forget there's something someplace. Then they say somebody stole it, or they don't know where it's at. But I hold myself accountable on a lot of different levels. Like for me, it's my responsibility to do research on cars, find out what am I buying, what should it be sold as, what should it be purchased as, what price, what are some of the trends that's going on, what are different players doing. I do research every day of the week, even on the weekends. To me, it's not even work. It's just looking into something that I really am enthused about. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people leave it to AIH to tell them. They leave it to FD to tell them. They leave it to someone else to tell them about something, when the information is readily available to everybody that's out here about what's going on. So to me, ownership is huge, but also, maybe people are more trusting, more, I don't like to use the word trusting, more just accepting of things than I am. Like there has to be an acid test. Like, I always tell my kids, in science, you have a semi-permeable membrane to a cell and you have a permeable membrane to a cell. One cell, everything's not getting through. And one cell it is. That's how I try to live my life. And I've been like that since I was real young. Like I just don't walk up and think everybody in this circle right now has my best interest at heart. They don't. And I approach the hobby the same way. I try to be professional at all times. I talk to people, try to get to know folks, find out what you're all about. And then we go from there. There's some people I would never buy a car from again. There are people that I'm watching what they do and they know what I collect and they hit me up because now we have a relationship. Last year in 2022, I worked to build more relationships with people. This year it's gonna be the same way. Really getting to know people. Prime example, like you have Zach's sports cars here, right?
Yeah.
Zach's good people.
Yeah, he just says that we have a lot of local card shops in Atlanta getting robbed lately. Very sad. Yeah.
Very sad. But so let me just tell you this. This is how I operate. This is how I get down. I saw in Atlanta, Dave's Sports Cars was robbed. There's been a couple other shops robbed. I called up someone yesterday. I'm in a store shopping. I got to know this. Who owns a shop? And I asked him, what do you do to try to prevent robberies? We walked through he told me a bunch of things that he does try to prevent the robbery. I mean, meticulous. He's meticulous about what he's doing to make sure that $15,000 car is not taken out of here without it being purchased. I just don't know if everybody's doing that. I don't know. Now, if we believe that and I'm not putting blame on anybody, I'm just being for real. If we think somebody walked into a store and saw a $40,000 car sitting there and a pane of glass and a door is going to keep them from coming back in that store, we're like fooling ourselves. I would hate, this is what I would hate, that one day a show is robbed. This is some, you got a lot going on in the world, America right now, and you have cars that still have value. And the market is down. There are some cars that still have significant value.
Do you think that if there's a lot of people out there, people would be more hesitant to engage in those crimes? I know that there have been crimes committed at shows, usually, taken care of, unless, the guy gets away. But I think since there's so many people in the crowd, if someone is actually actively stealing, I think a lot of people would probably catch on and probably go after the guy.
Oh, could be, but I mean, you can go to some large shows. You can go to the National. There are people on their feet interacting with people. They have people around watching every aspect of that table. That table's not going to get robbed. You have some people sitting back. You have some people with cars sitting on top of price bins. You have people turning their back. You have people over here engaged in conversation on the left side of the table. Their car's on the right. They haven't looked over here in 10 minutes. That table might get robbed.
Yeah, like there are like I remember at the Chicago show in Rosemont, I was there and I'm thinking, wait, these guys are just sitting back. I mean, obviously I'm not going to steal, but if I were a crook, like some of these booths are not even taking care of their booth. They have like 4 or 5 tables, one person's on that end.
Mhm.
You could just like, have someone distract the guy or gal, and then someone could just like take a bunch of things and not even know it.
Mhm. But
It
what we have to realize is that we had a hobby. The boom happened. That boom made people that don't even think about cars start thinking about cars. And it could be a positive way of thinking about cars. It could be a negative way, or it could be neutral. But now you have different people coming into the space that are thinking different things. If I see a car and I really want it, I'm trying to find ways. AIH, I'm probably to the extreme. Like, I don't buy cars on credit. I don't do any of that. So if I can't pay for the car, I'd never own a car. If I can't work my way up to that car, I'm never going to own a car. I teach Junior the same thing. G and I talk about stuff. That's just how I operate. Like, I'm not putting myself in a debt. I don't practice bad behavior. I'm not immature about anything. So if I came to a business, we set up at a show, only had a few cars on the table. G and I talked about how we were going to watch that table. I just have to be responsible about my goods and my services and what I'm doing. And I think as we have more of that in the hobby, you probably have less of other things. But we just got to know that as prices rise, some other things come with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I My concern though is, once, I start paying off, some of the repairs that are going on in my house, then I could get into potentially higher end cards. But I'm thinking to myself, do I want to get into these higher end cards? And I'm not here to pick on Prism God here, but
Mhm,
there was just issue with provenance of, I think it was maybe a Jordan card,
mhm,
and it was allegedly someone stole it before him,
mhm,
and then now there could be some legal issues and like, okay, who owes this gentleman from Italy who had his card stolen the money? And go to the show, cards probably exchanged many times,
mhm,
and then you're thinking, okay, what if you accidentally buy a stolen card? So what if I accidentally buy a stolen card and if it's like less than $100, okay, there's no worry on my end. But if you're spending
mhm,
thousands and thousands of dollars from a
mhm.
legal perspective, if you have it last, you may be having to give that card back and all your money could be out the window. So
Well, legally, I would think, like when I first heard about this, I thought,
yeah.
I just want to know a card is stolen. We've all purchased cards. We've all looked them up in PSA or Beckett or whatever.
Mhm.
SCP. How do we know the card is stolen or not? And is there information that's been produced to us that the card is stolen? Now, I'm not even talking about just this situation. I'm talking about in general. Like how do we know that? So and I think if it can be proven that you are of knowledge of knowing that the card has been taken, then that's another avenue that course is about to go down. But for us in the hobby who are buying and selling, and I'm walking through the National, and I don't know where that card was 3 weeks ago, 4 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the reason why, like, I don't want to be spending way too much on cards, and I want to buy from different people. I don't want to buy a lot of cards, set of 10, set of 20, set of 30, or even more just from one specific vendor. I want to buy it from multiple vendors and not I don't want to, pay too much for the card either. I know some people mock my strategy when I, have speculated in cards, but ultimately, I don't want to wind up in a situation where I'm in a lawsuit and then I have to give that card back. And I've been sent a lot of crazy things over the past, 7, 8 months, alleged cards that are trimmed, potential money laundering, just crazy stuff. I can't prove all of this, but I would not be surprised if this is true. So that's why I don't really down the road want to spend a ridiculous amount on cards, even though from an ROI perspective, it may be great.
It
But
could be fabulous.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's the risk reward. So okay, you could buy a high end card. High end cards tend to do well.
Well,
During the
in a
boom.
hobby though, let me just say this: in a
Yeah,
hobby, we swing the pendulum. We just swing it, right? So
yeah,
now the thing is about people being sued and about stolen cars.
yeah,
But what percentage of cars are really stolen? We don't know. We will never know those numbers. How many people are saying that this car was at this value and it was taken in Atlanta, now I saw it was sold in Cleveland. We don't know that, but we start thinking things in the hobby. We start going with it, but we don't know the answers to that. I can tell you, I've been in a hobby for a while. I don't know how much I've heard about stolen cars and starts being resold.
yeah. Ziggy thinks that there's a lot more stolen cards out there. He's saying that people don't want to know the truth. A lot of stolen and fake circulating. No one's talking it,
I
or
mean,
no one's
we don't.
talking about
I mean, he does have a point. We don't do much besides take a picture of a card, put it on Instagram or Facebook, say it was stolen. I do. I remember that serial number 6 weeks from now, 2 years from now. I mean, that's not logged anywhere. Also, we have cards that are stated that are stolen that were not stolen. Someone's organization wasn't right. The card is still in their care. They don't really know where it is though.
it. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think in regards to trimmed and altered cards, I think there's more trimmed and altered cards versus the stolen cards out there.
I could see that. I don't know that for as a fact, but I could definitely see that being a higher number than
Yeah.
what is actually stolen.
And then what do you think about people using you could call it chemicals or solutions on cards? I did videos about that. It's a very polarizing topic. I have a
You did
hard
do a
line.
video on it. I think I watched your video on it.
Yeah. I have a hardline stance because, like you said earlier, you started into coins, right?
Mhm.
In the coin world, using these chemicals and solutions is a no-no
Mhm.
unless you want the grade of, I forget what it's called, maybe altered, or you're using it for conservation purposes, but it's a lower grade. And that's the way that I look at it. Maybe, okay, microfiber cloth, Nat Turner told me it's fine, but everything else is a gray area. I personally wouldn't use it. I understand I could sell my cards for a higher amount, but it's just more of principle on my part. What your thoughts on that?
Well, I think about like if you look at comic books, right? You can do some things that's going to have you a grade that's not refurbished, but you can still use some substances to take some grime off a cover. You can press comics. I mean, you can do a bunch of stuff to get you a higher grade. I personally don't see cards any different.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is that CGC, they do that with comic books. Do you think that PSA is going to be doing that? Because PSA, they own PCGS, the coin company, and you can't do that stuff. And then now with cards, there's a lot of people at the show, they're wiping it down, they're cleaning it,
Well, I
all
saw in
that
a
stuff.
video, I think it was on Instagram, where a person took a substance and rubbed it on a card to remove all blemishes, and that card was extremely shiny after that. They
Yeah.
rubbed it on; it was almost like wax on a car. They rubbed it on, let it sit, rubbed it off with a microfiber. Um, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't do that. I know there's people that do
I
that.
wouldn't
That
take.
PSA.
I would personally take my cards to anyone that's doing that. I wouldn't do that, but I don't know if that's I don't know if that's way out of bounds. I don't know. I do know that if there's a test and there's a score. I used to go when I was in college. There was some fraternity guys. I'm in a fraternity, another fraternity. They had test banks. And so one day I was talking to a guy, I had an econ class. I'm talking to a guy. He's like, FD, you don't have you didn't get the test? No, what are you talking about? He said, oh, before all these tests, we get the tests. There are 3 different kinds of tests that this teacher gives. And we study those tests and we know he's going to give one of the 3. So we're good. Now, I'm a guy playing football, studying, right? I think anytime you have a grading system and somebody's trying to meet a grade, a 40-yard dash in the NFL combine, anything like that, somebody's going to take something to the next level in order to hit a number because they're only concerned about the number. So when we look at a PSA 10 or BGS 10, somebody's trying to get to that number. And I don't know if these grading companies are going to take a stance to say, I don't know. I see some residue on this card that I don't see on this card. Was this card altered? Now, I understand if there's some trimming taking place. They're measuring. They know that. If there's any other kind of residue that's on it that show that a crease or something was fixed, they understand that. I don't know about the other.
Yeah, like Neo did a video with I don't know if you saw it, with SGC's president. I think the guy's name's Peter.
Okay.
And then he asked Peter. Peter says, we have no way of looking at it. I mean, he said that there are some techniques they use which they can't disclose, but for the most part they can't. So that just gives more incentive for people to do that. But I think it's crazy if you're doing it on camera and posting an IG. That's something.
Well, I think some of these preppers, I don't know what their proper term is, people that prep cards, maybe they think that that's a differentiating action that they do that's different than somebody down here. And they want to show people that I'm producing more PSA 10s if you bring them to me because I do this. I don't know. But I know I go to the slab doctor in LA. Him and I have talked. Like, he's not doing that. And would never do that. And he doesn't change the structure of a card for a better grade. Doesn't do anything like that. Does not wiping anything down with a substance to create this or that. Doesn't do that. But, there are other people who have businesses that they sell chemicals. Like Mr. Minty here in LA. I can't say that Mr. Minty's business is horrible or wrong. I mean, I don't. But he sells chemicals to clean up a card.
Yeah, I think it's him and Kurt's Card Care. Those are the 2.
And Kurtz has been the one that's, I think, made videos that a lot of people talked about, right?
Yeah, he has what, over 6,000 followers on IG last time I checked.
And then that's another thing, right? You're trying to increase your IG followership. So what's going to make you different than this person over here? I put chemicals on cars and maybe I get better grade. Anytime we have anything that, I'm telling you, you have a grade or a number or something someone's trying to reach to signify success. I mean, I played ball in college, right? People approach me about taking steroids. The only reason I didn't do anything like that is just how I was raised at our age. I mean, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do my thing, but I'm not destroying myself 20 years from now. So this is the real reason, right? Because of how I was raised. We had a coach that squatted 1,000 pounds before in life. He was our offensive line coach, became our head coach. That was a picture in the weight room of him holding a bar. The bar is bent. I mean, significantly bent. He has 1,000 pounds on. He's coming up. You can see every vein in his neck, everything. He was on horse hormones, man. He told us that. There's no way I'm lifting that weight if I'm not on that. Now, we saw the effects of that. It affected his heart. His heart got larger. He almost passed out one day in a game, like arguing with the ref. It was hot. He got worked up, started almost like fainted. He had growths in his elbow where he couldn't extend his elbow. He like a bone spur connecting both sides. All this stuff is the effects of taking something. And there are probably many more that we didn't know about, but that was stuff that he openly talked to us about. So You got raised a certain way. You're seeing that. You're not. You're not going on that road. But we had some guys on the team that took steroids. They got busted by the NCAA and had to lead the team for a year.
Did you see anything else besides roids people used to do?
No, I mean, when you're on AIH, I tell people all the time, you go to college, you see every drug that's probably, we didn't have fentanyl back in the 90s, but you probably have visually seen almost every drug. You play a sport, you play basketball, football, I would be amazed if these guys say, oh, I've never seen that. You see every socially accepted something right there in front of you. You have to make the decision about what you're going to do, how you build what you want to do. I've been around from the time I went to college to probably about 30. I've seen a bunch of different stuff. I got out of school. I managed a motel for a while. You see a lot of crazy stuff coming in and out of a motel. So it's all about what do you want to do. And then I'll tell people all the time, there are players probably better than Michael Jordan, but they didn't have the dedication that he had. They got caught up in this, so they did that, or they went down this road. But I was young, thinking seriously about the future, and I wasn't about to squat 600 and bench 5 something to try to do this and then throw the rest of my life away. That's not.
That's a good decision that you made. Speaking more about, you also mentioned that there were probably better athletes than Michael Jordan in the NBA, or better players who had talent. I think that one guy that died in the 80s, who was drafted by Boston.
Oh, Len Bias. Yeah. Jordan,
I think he would have probably been on that level.
Yeah, Len Bias was 6'10", 6'11", and moved like he was 6'4".
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there were people that just messed around, and if they had the dedication like him, or if Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady wasn't gifted at all compared to all these other guys. If people put in the work ethic, partied less, I think a lot of these guys could have achieved.
But the flip side of that, Lawrence Taylor came to games. Didn't he know where he was really at? Dominated people. So, I mean, that's all kind of, I think when we have these conversations, we're talking about the average NFL player, the average baseball player. Lawrence Taylor is on a whole nother level, doing stuff athletically that most people cannot do. So, and that's what always cracks me up now when someone wants to compare themselves to Lawrence Taylor. You watch a sports talk show and they're talking about Lawrence Taylor. Come on, man. There's only one Lawrence Taylor.
Right. I mean, like, just imagine if Antonio Brown was clean cut. Just imagine what he'd be able to do.
Well, this is what I say about Antonio Brown, and I have no scientific proof of this. But you remember the hit that he took versus the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, I've heard of that hit.
That changed Antonio Brown. I watch a lot of sports. I tracked his whole career. He became a different person after that hit. And if you watch the hit, it's one of the most violent hits. It's probably top 3 I've ever seen in football. Where the linebacker almost tried to decapitate him with an elbow under his chin. So you see his head right back. It's a vicious hit. And that young man changed after that. And to me, a lot of stuff that he's experiencing now is because of that change.
Yeah, he was confronted in an interview about that, and then, he just went off. But I do think that he must have CTE.
Yeah. I feel bad for him, man. He's a young guy. And I think a lot of his people look at him and crack jokes. Like, I don't crack jokes on Antonio Brown. I've been on the field. I've had concussions before. I've hit people. And I don't crack. When I see him doing something, it's a bad situation. Like that, he medically probably needs some help that I don't know if people around him. When you have things going on, sometimes you surround yourself with people that are less confrontational, more enablers. So he probably has some people around him that's not really challenging him on some things that he may need to be doing for himself. And if any one of us lost our whereabouts or understanding of ourselves or viciously in a car accident or in a football field or somewhere. Some people trip and fall and hit their head on concrete. They're never the same. So that's what I think about Antonio Brown. I just hope he can live a life uh, and not have additional issues.
Yep. Yep. I did wanted to ask you about the playoffs, NFL playoffs. What do you think is who do you think is the strongest link in both of the leagues?
I kind of we talked about this on the show the other day. I think the AFC is kind of up for grabs. You got to see who's going to show up when. The Chargers to me always play under their abilities. Now they have a Mike Williams is out. What will they do? Are they going to be put out by a team like? Well, they play the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's going to happen in that game? I'm not too impressed by Trevor Lawrence. Some other people are. I think of Trevor Lawrence as a lot of hype associated with him, but a lot of people like him. So we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks who's who. Josh Allen likes to run the ball a lot. Sometimes he's careless. He throws the ball. What's going to happen there? There's a lot of young quarterbacks in the AFC. What are they going to do? NFC, I kind of feel like the 49ers are probably going to make their way through some stuff. I want to see Tom Brady put out Dak and the Cowboys. That's just a personal thing for me. I always think the Cowboys are overhyped. But who's going to be in the Super Bowl? I don't think anybody now can really say. I think the 49ers have a great shot, but they got a third-string quarterback. So I hope he's right now sitting somewhere knowing that defenses are going to throw something at him that he's never seen thus far. And they're going to try to confuse him. They're going to do the same thing with Geno Smith. They're going to try to confuse him. And the players that have less experience but can navigate through those kind of blitzes, setups, defenses morph. They set up one way, morph into something totally different. If you can work your way through that, you might be in a Super Bowl. But to me, it's so hard to predict right now who's going to be there. It would be nice to see the Buffalo Bills. I'm just going straight up competition. Got big names on both sides. The Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers.
Interesting.
Because last year I really wanted to see Tampa Bay versus Herbert and the Chargers, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think I did a video with an ex-coworker, and I said, okay, it's going to be the Bills versus the Packers. Packers not even in the playoffs. I mean,
as a Bears fan, that makes me happy. But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back with another team and try to do what Brady did with Tampa Bay.
Who's going to sign or who's going to get Aaron Rodgers? That's the thing. Like, the Redskins?
You got a few teams that need a quarterback.
Washington?
Yeah, Washington's one of them. But to me, if he went to the Washington organization with everything that's going on there,
yeah, it's a cluster.
The rest of their career, right? Yeah,
it's a cluster. I mean, what, the Titans? The Titans? Could
Titans
they get him?
Nice. It would be nice. I actually want the Titans running back to hopefully get out of there. He's the last standing. Yeah, Henry, last one standing.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be the Bills from the AFC. I'll stick with that pick. And then I'm going to go with the Vikings.
You believe in Kirk Cousins, huh?
I mean, I don't see that much talent in the NFC. Anyway, do you see that much?
No, you're right. I mean, any one of those teams, Minnesota could be there. Any one of those teams could be there. And I don't see Kirk Cousins as any different than a lot of these other young quarterbacks. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of playoff success. So, you know what shocked me today, though, is that McVay said that he's going to come back and coach the Rams. That shocked me. I thought he was out for sure. I thought he was going to go be a commentator or something.
Yeah, I know. He said that he's going to get a heart attack or something. And that's why he wants to quit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, but I'll stick with the Bills winning the Super Bowl. But if they lose, then that'll be interesting. But
I guess the next year, Josh Allen will have some $1 million cards, right?
Who knows?
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah. What's up?
If you were in a situation, I know you and Dan, great curator.
Yeah.
Y'all have some back and forth. If you were in a situation where y'all could talk face to face, would you engage in that?
I'd probably talk, but I could tell you, some things, outside of this program, but if he improves his content
Mhm.
and if he does, how should I say this? I always felt that he was deceiving people. Maybe I was wrong about that, but if he improves on, less hype content,
Mhm.
I think that would be a start. And I think I saw it the other day where he's saying like, "Hey, look, card prices don't go up. I mean, you got to see organic growth. It can't be all hyped up and all that stuff." So if he starts to talk like that, okay, that's a start. That's how I look at it.
I got you. I thought you would be open.
Yeah, I
If
mean, I could talk to anyone, but I've told you this before. I don't trust a lot of people in the hobby,
Mhm.
and
I just always think like, and it's beyond you and Dan.
yeah,
This is his hobby. Like,
yeah,
just just talk. Just
yeah,
and like you and I can get on the show and not we don't agree about everything.
yeah. I know we don't agree. I mean, this is what Steve says. Like, he's blocked me for asking questions is live. How can you converse with someone like that? That's the common criticism that he gets. Like me, people, I don't know if you've seen my other live streams. They've been crazy. The comment sections have been crazy. This is more, us just talking normally. I'm calm, you're calm.
Yeah.
Comment section isn't crazy, but sometimes, it gets wild, right? So, but I'm usually an open book here, unless the comments are really crazy or they're like spamming the comments, then I block them. But that usually doesn't happen. So I'm like completely the opposite of Dan. And
So
I know that,
what is Pig saying here? I met Dan face to face. When he came to Canada, overall it was unpleasant. He insulted the event and people, including me.
so I think what happened was I was talking to Sports Card Cartel. I don't know if you've interacted with him, but he was saying something about he was going to Canada and then Dan was like bashing the show in Canada. And then because they didn't like PMGs, Marvel PMGs. But if you're looking at it from a cultural perspective,
Yeah.
Canadians, they like hockey.
Yeah.
So they're not going to look at Marvel PMGs. So is it, bashing? Is that the right way to do a group of people? You know, anyone could say whatever they want, but if I'm going to a Canadian show, I'm pretty sure they're going to have a lot of Wayne Gretzky cards. They're going to
Well,
have
yeah. It was like taking
Ovechkin.
ice to Antarctica and say nobody bought ice when I was there.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, remember you asked me about the Marvel, PMGs and all that. And I said, hey, look, this is a pump and dump, right? So at that time, Dan was saying that, hey, look, if you're negative, you're basically bad for the hobby, and being negative is going to drive down prices. It had nothing to do with that. It all had to do with supply and demand and also with the economic conditions, the Fed, which I always talk
Yeah,
about.
basic business principles.
So,
Yeah.
but once again, I am open to discussion with all types of people, right? People that I don't agree with. And that's why I have you on, just for a
Mhm,
conversation.
mhm.
But yeah, maybe if you want to facilitate that, sure, we could have a conversation. I'd be up for it.
We should all get together at the national.
Yeah, I'm
'Cause
gonna be there for sure.
I'm gonna hook up with you at the national. Well, we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna try to talk to anyone, that wants
Oh
to
yeah,
talk.
oh yeah.
All right, is there anything else that you want to discuss?
Mm, not in particular. I don't know
No.
if anybody else has a question or anything they want to jump into, but mm-mm. Well, what are you buying now, man? You buying anything?
Buying, I'm just buying like I had this card the other day, just like weird stuff. This is just for my own PC. I bought this Scherzer die cut card, just like weird stuff for my PC. I'm not investing too much. I want to look into Comp C and play around with that right now.
Mhm.
I'm like selling some cards here and there, but what about you?
I like Golden State stuff. So Steph Curry, James Wiseman, some other stuff. I still pay attention to. I actually just got this card in the mail today. It's a James Wiseman Kaboom card.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of the stuff. And then I think my strategy has shifted to less frequent purchases and more of a concentrated, I'm going after this card of this player, and I've done research to take me there. It's going to be more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably be buying, for my own PC, just anything Chicago auto related. Like when I go to a show in Chicago, I would go to one booth where they always have like Chicago Cubs autos or Patrick Kane auto for hockey, just stuff like that. That's what I'm looking at. I mean, for investing wise right now, not so much, but just PC wise, that's what I'm doing.
I know I asked you one question here. A lot of people, when I
Yeah.
get on live, question
Yeah.
always comes up, FD, what do you think of sports car radio? So I'll ask you, AH, what do you think of sports car radio?
What I think is they do a very good job of showing what I call the hanky panky in the hobby. And what I need to actually work on is trying to convince people how I think. They have receipts, whether people like them or not. I get it. Some people may think that they're
They get the
divisive.
information, right? They get
They
it.
they have the information. They have the receipts. So, and they do a good thing of what we learned in English class: the claim, the evidence, the warrant. They could present that very well.
Mhm.
And for me, I do more behavioral analysis. And I don't have the same amount of receipts as them because I'm not in the hobby as long as they do. I don't have the same contacts, but that's what they're very good at. Now, I think what rubs people the wrong way is how they sometimes act. I think they just troll people, and some people take the bait, and that just, you know, gets more people watching, right? Because people take the bait. And obviously they have fantastic information. I am in contact with them at times. What do you think about them? Since you asked,
Mm, I see the bit.
I know you had some back and forth with them, but
No, I really haven't. No, I haven't had any back and forth with them, really.
no.
Uh, like you talk about taking a bait, and I think the hobby is different than like there's some cultural differences, right? Like, I grew up, somebody can say anything about you. All right. If it's not true, it's just somebody talking. That's just where I'm from, man. A lot of people feel like they have to respond to something. I mean, that's their personal perspective, I guess. But if you heard tomorrow, man, FT stole cars at my table. If it's not true, AIH, I have to consider if I'm really going to be wasting my time talking about that.
So
So,
if someone said that, hey, look, FD stole cards
mhm,
from somebody,
yep.
I mean, if the story just like blew up and everyone was DMing me, I'd be probably doing an IG video saying that, hey, look, I didn't do this. This is totally bogus. That's what
What,
I would
what,
do.
what if someone took the stance to not even do that at all?
And then some people would think that you're complicit. So then be like, hey, I was not over there. So that story
See,
is
these
completely
are the
off base.
these are the cultural differences in the hobby. Because where I'm from, if someone's telling mistruths on me, you just keep talking. Doesn't bother me, man. It's not going to affect me. If anybody really knows who I am, what I stand for, how I get down, what I represent, you wouldn't even believe that anyway. So evidently, you don't know me. And if you really did know me, you would know that was BS as soon as you heard it. This is why when people start talking to me about Mark's cars, around here, we laugh, man. It's a joke. Like, they don't know me. But who I am is kind of like the story I told you earlier about being there, Julian's experiences. It bothered me, but I knew that it's not going to work out. The people are coming in the door, and that's how you're getting down. It's not going to work out. It actually took us a lot. AIH. I tell you, we had to sit down and talk about because of the cultural differences. When I made the video to talk about Mark's cars, at first I wasn't even gonna make that video
Yeah. I mean,
because
the thing is,
there was nothing about that was me. But we talked as a group about just separating ourselves from that immediately. And I think because of the experience that we had, the story, it just made it a lot easier for me. But I see a lot of stuff in the hobby. I see a lot of people running around talking about something. Just because someone said something about you, it doesn't get my attention, man. It doesn't move me. I know who I am. I'm grounded in who I actually am. And to me, there's a lot of oh, did you hear this going on in the hobby?
yeah, I see what you're saying. Speaking of cultural differences, so my parents were immigrants, and you grew up around people like that, and a lot of the elders, they're like blunt. Like my wife's parents,
Mhm,
even though she was born and raised here, they're blunt.
mhm.
And the way that I handle myself, I'm blunt, right? I
Oh,
don't
no.
hold back. And that's a
Yeah,
cultural difference, maybe
yeah.
someone that may have not grown up the way that I have.
Mhm.
That's how I just say it the way that I see it. And
I know
I
watching
don't
content
hold
tell me.
back.
I
Whatever.
was raised like that. I grew up like that. My people from the South, like we don't waste time with passive aggressive and this, that,
Yeah.
the other. Well, I mean, we could be at a function, and if I disagree with you, I'm saying that right to your face. I'm not going over here and talking to this person
Right.
about what I think about AIH. We're gonna talk about this
Right.
and then get to a decision that we do agree or disagree. Then we're gonna move on with our day. And I think
Right.
a lot of times in the hobby, we get caught up in things and start talking about stuff and because someone says something, then I got to make a rebuttal video. Now, Jeff Wilson made a video. I kind of understood that because it's about his business, it's about some other things. But some of the videos that I see that people are coming back and talking about somebody said this, like I would personally move on, show myself of who I am and the content that I make or how I do things, and let that speak for itself. I don't know why we. Maybe I have a lot of old school in me. I just don't know why we feel like we have to address everything that someone says about something.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a strong allegation saying that, hey, look, AIH is what, trimming cards and stealing cards and defrauding people online,
Oh, but just think
and
about
if it blew up, right? If that story blew up, like 5,000, 6,000 views on, another channel that pops up, I would probably make a response. Maybe not on YouTube, on IG, I'd probably like, hey, respond like, this is ridiculous. I'm
it's just about how things take. Like
yeah,
with us, we were connected with Mark's Cards. Mark's Cards submits cards for grading,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
What does that have to do with rolling with FD?
yeah. I mean, I think you saw it in like the comment section here and there, so that's what.
It's just because somebody said something. This is what I go back to. This takes us all the way back to the beginning of the show. The more we have different people in the hobby, don't expect the same results, man. Don't expect because someone said something, somebody's running to grab a camera and sit down and talk about. Mm-mm. If it's not true, mm-mm. Please don't expect that. That's just how particular people move, and that may be near and dear to them. But man, I've been through life. There's been a lot of people who have said college, elementary school, work, uh, personal life, knowing people. There's been a lot of people who said mistruths. That's not even. It's a waste of my time, man.
It's interesting.
You got to think. I got a 7-year-old out here. Got a 3-year-old out here. Got an 18-year-old out here just started college. I have a 25-year-old daughter. I got to make sure my health is good. I got a lot of stuff. My father and I used to always talk about what's on your windshield, right? If you prioritize yourself or what's right in front of your face, you don't have time for the peripherals. You really don't have time for it. So when I go to a show and I'm talking to somebody, I'm doing that. What you see us do, that's another thing I want people to know. When the camera's rolling, that's what we do. If you see, if I come to a show and make a deal with you, that deal was actually made. You walked away with funds. I walked away with a card. There's nothing made up here. And maybe that's why some people think like, when we first started, people didn't have a label for us. They didn't really know. I would get the question a lot. So what do you do? Do you buy? Do you sell? Like, no, I'm a collector, and I do certain things to enhance my PC. It's like, really, no one's making content like that. And now recently, I've been hearing the term real. Like you're very real, FD. You're real. See, keep it real. You're
Yeah,
real.
exactly. That was the. I think keeping it real with FD. I think that's what I named it.
Yeah, you're real. So I mean, I don't know if there's a label, but someone's gonna try to find one.
All right. We're getting to the 1.5 hour mark. So before I let you go, where can people find you?
People can find me on Rolling with FD on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. Also on Rolling with FD on Instagram. We have a Rolling with FD TikTok. And I just started, it's very raw right now, Rolling with FD Facebook page. You can email me at rollingwithfd@gmail.com. Any question you have, I used to get a lot of questions back in the day. Anything you want to know about, you want to kind of kick the tires on the idea or strategy that you're thinking about as far as your collection, I can only tell you what I'm thinking and try to help out as much as possible.
Awesome. I think this was a great conversation.
Well, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
do
we,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
We should do this sometime later this year
Oh,
again.
yeah, for sure. Like I said, we're planning to be at the National. Definitely want to meet you in person.
Yeah, for sure. For
Mhm.
sure.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I
Awesome.
appreciate you having us on, though. This is great because I feel like when I get on, I represent G. Edits everything that we do, and then the strategy team here is like the family where we talk about different kind of stuff. So about what we want to do. So there's some different things we're going to try to do. Probably more family content and all different types of stuff throughout 2023. But the hobby will be important to us. We'll be at Burbank Card Show coming up. Plan to be at the Delmar Card Show by the Union Marketplace coming up in March 24th to the 26th. I want to get up to the Bay Area this year. I like to get to Denver, Arizona, and then my guy Imani buys and sells cars. He's from Alabama. I want to get down to the South and actually go to a car show.
Awesome.
Splendor wants us to pump some KD cars, huh? He has to come back from that NCL tear. With a 30 a night. He was playing very well before he got hurt, though.
Yeah, he has too many KD cards.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you.
Yep.